at the Reagan Library. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Today is a new day for the Republican field. At this moment, the pollsters are hard at work dialing voters, adding the numbers, and figuring out how last night's 3-hour brawl may have reshaped the race for the White House. And tonight we are doing some polling of our own. Check this out. We have assembled almost 24 GOP voters here, live in the studio right now, to look at the questions that have yet to be answered. Who would be best against Hillary? How will voter anger affect this field? And will Donald Trump face any blowback for how he tonight answered a question at a town hall about Muslims in America? But we start with the Fiorina story. A woman whose low poll numbers kept her off the main stage in the first debate, now being called the winner of the second contest. Less than an hour after it ended, the Weekly Standard declared it was, quote, Carly's night. The New York Post said she, quote, made her case to be the GOP frontrunner, while the folks at Bloomberg suggested no one performed better than the former Hewlett-Packard CEO. Here's a quick look at some of what impressed the critics.
Donald Trump said the following about you, quote, look at that face. Would anyone vote for that? As Mr. Trump later said, he was talking about your persona, not your appearance. Please feel free to respond what you think about his persona.
You know, it's interesting to me. Mr. Trump said that he heard Mr. Bush very clearly and what Mr. Bush said. I think women all over this country heard very clearly what Mr. Trump said. I'd like to link these two issues, both of which are incredibly important, Iran and Planned Parenthood. One has something to do with the defense of the security of this nation. The other has something to do with the defense of the character of this nation. You have not heard a plan about Iran from any politician up here. Here's my plan. On day one in the Oval Office, I will make 2 phone calls. The first to my good friend Bibi Netanyahu to reassure him we will stand with the state of Israel. The second to the Supreme Leader to tell him that unless and until he opens every military and every nuclear facility to real anytime, anywhere inspections by our people, not his, we, the United States of America, will make it as difficult as possible to move money around the global financial system. As regards Planned Parenthood, anyone who has watched this videotape, I dare Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama to watch these tapes. Watch a fully formed fetus on the table, its heart beating, its legs kicking, while someone says we have to keep it alive to harvest its brain. This is about the character of our nation. And if we will not stand up and force President Obama to veto this bill, shame on us.
That's when she dropped the mic. Our panel is with us here now with reaction. Welcome, everybody. All right, raise your hand if you think Fiorina won that debate last night. Wow. And put your hands down. Raise your hand if going into the debate you were a Fiorina supporter. You liked her as your top choice. Wow. So it wasn't necessarily a field of Fiorina rooting people, but she persuaded you. What was it? Was it any one answer, or was it the overall performance? Any of you? Yeah, go ahead in the front. Darren.
I feel that Carly's focus on the fortification of military forces overseas was a very important thing. We have to take in consideration the drawdown of military forces overseas post-Iraq had been somewhat...
What about Rubio? He was big on military. People were giving him props for that.
But she gave more of a comprehensive overview of what she wanted to pursue in moving forward.
How about
Rubio
you, Gary?
I think...
Hold on. Get the mic there.
I don't think it's one specific issue. I just think it was a whole personality, the way she attacked Mr. Trump and all the other candidates and the president. She was very decisive, and I think that's what the American people want.
Right next to Gary, go ahead.
But I think that she used Trump's own words is what I like best about her answer about his persona.
Mm-hmm. What did you make of the face remark and his response? You're a beautiful woman.
He did not. Oh, his response. Mm-hmm. He was trying to pander and trying to walk it back. He wasn't sincere.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious how the women in the room, going into the debate last night, did the women like Donald Trump? Raise your hand if you liked him. No one. None of the women. But we have Donald Trump supporters here. It's just none of the women, apparently. What did you think? I said this on the air last night. She was accused of scowling at him when he said she was a beautiful woman. My own take on it was she didn't want any further comments about the appearance. The solution to the comments about the appearance was not more comments about the appearance. Your take on it. I'll ask the ladies on that. Go ahead on the end.
She demonstrated a tremendous resiliency in the way that she reacted to his remarks. His remarks that "I believe you are beautiful" were disingenuous. And what is liked about him is he says what he means and he means what he says. But it was very clear that he didn't mean that. So his remarks were disingenuous, but her reaction and her resiliency was inspiring.
Well, raise your hand if you like Trump. All right, so Gary, you like Trump in the front. You're a woman, and you're in the front here. Sorry, Heather.
I like any Republican candidate who's not Hillary. And because I run an organization that does independent expenditures in elections, we don't take sides between candidates. But you can see where his attraction has come from. We did economic messaging work earlier this year. Clearly, the thing that is the driver, not only among GOP voters, but among swing voters, is somebody who's confident, who has leadership abilities, who is an outsider to Washington, and who is focused on making things great. What makes him helpful. Carly manages to have all those virtues without the liabilities. His core value proposition is, I'm a truth teller and I'm a fighter. And if you watch the debate last night, she's the one who owned those two characteristics.
Who here, I mean, to what extent do you think it would be useful, A, to have a female nominee on the GOP side, given the likelihood of Hillary Clinton being the female nominee on the Democratic side, or should that not play any role? Let's go to this side.
I think regardless of who it is, Trump offers no content behind what he's saying. In a former life, he was successful by getting good TV ratings, and I don't think he understands that high Nielsen ratings don't defeat ISIS and they don't fix a broken VA. And I think a lot of voters are recognizing that.
Do you think there's any importance to having a female nominee on the GOP side, though? Anybody put any weight on that?
I don't think that.
Go ahead.
I think the candidate who goes up against Hillary Clinton needs to be the most qualified candidate, regardless of gender.
Absolutely.
But Carly Fiorina, she demonstrated last night that she has the foreign policy credentials. She's not afraid to go after Hillary Clinton. She obviously can't be accused of sexism if she does go after Hillary Clinton. And I think that would completely derail Democrats. They wouldn't know what to do if we had a woman nominated.
One of the moments that got a lot of attention, it wasn't in our montage, was when she talked about the drugs. And she talked about the fact that she had a stepdaughter who died as an adult of drugs. And that's when she said, you know, marijuana is not the same as it was when Jeb Bush tried it 40 years ago. But it was a powerful moment, one in which she showed emotion. You could almost hear her voice come close to cracking, but she held it together. Speak to the importance of that, these candidates speaking about their own personal experience and whether it affected you at all.
Can I just
yes, go ahead.
tie this in? For those who haven't seen it, on YouTube is an ad that the Fiorina campaign put out called Faces, which was in response to the Trump comment. And it's, I think, maybe the most brilliant political ad I have ever seen. And it presaged the answer that she gave. It was strong. It was about all Americans. And it talks about women are not a victim group. They are 54% of the electorate. And if we remember, Romney lost women to Obama 55-44. So having a woman on the ticket who can neutralize a lot of the issues that the left uses on women. If you look back to 2014, Fiorina was talking about the war on women, about the wage gap, about all sorts of issues that our male politicians have been reluctant to take on. She adds to that the personal empathy, as you say, of the personal experiences.
But here's the question. It is, and I say this with all due respect to my sisters, do you believe America is ready for a female GOP nominee and a female Democratic nominee?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great.
Don't just give the politically correct answer. Do you really believe that the two parties might do that this year?
Yes.
That would.
You do.
That would be fantastic if something like that can happen. If we had two women on both ends, we've already had an African-American president. If we had two women from both parties, that would be dynamic and that would be phenomenal for us as a country in terms of our representation of what we produce.
Did you guys know Fiorina before this? She's been on my show many times. She was on just the night before saying, you know, my problem is not a lot of people know my name. My name recognition is not as high as it needs to be in order for me to make inroads with the GOP field, but I'm going to make it. Did you know her prior to the debate, and do you think that, you know, once people really know her, she's going to go up?
I grew up in Northern California, and I watched her Senate race back in 2010. So I was familiar with her, but a lot of my, the millennial generation had no idea who Carly Fiorina was before she entered the Republican field. And I would say that last night really gave her that name recognition that she's going to need going forward to beat somebody like Donald Trump and launch herself into that role as a Washington outsider.
Well, she's one of the outsiders. You've got Fiorina, you've got Trump, and you've got Carson. Although this is one of the things we're going to talk about next after the break, which is, Now everyone is claiming that he or she is an outsider. Every single one is like, I'm an outsider, and we have a great montage of that next. We'll show you how the candidates did. It was actually kind of clever for some of them. We'll ask you what you think. Now, there was an interesting campaign trail moment when a voter tonight, this is just breaking, asked Donald Trump what he is going to do about all the Muslims in America. That is just ahead. Plus, almost every candidate on that stage last night suggested, I'm a political outsider. I've been in Washington 40 years, but I'm an outsider. Like, none of them have ever even been to Washington before. Are the voters buying that? Our panel is back on that in moments.
As far as being an outsider is concerned, let me tell you this, Jake. I am a Republican in New Jersey. I wake up every morning as an outsider.
Well, if you were watching your very first debate last night, you could have come away with the impression that none of these candidates for president had ever worked in politics before. And why do you think that is? Check out this recent CNN poll showing more than 68% of the respondents feel the folks in Washington do not represent their interests well. Only 30% seemed happy with their elected officials. And now listen to some of what we heard from the folks on stage last night.
I am leaving the Senate. I'm not running for re-election, and I'm running for president because I know this. Unless we have the right president, we cannot make America fulfill its potential. But with the right person in office, the 21st century can be the greatest era that our nation has ever known.
Good evening, everyone. I'm an eye surgeon from Bowling Green, Kentucky. My wife, Kelly, and I have been married for nearly 25 years, and I spend my days defending the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I think there's nothing more important than understanding that the Constitution restrains government, not the people.
Let me tell you this, Jake. I am a Republican in New Jersey. I wake up every morning as an outsider. I wake up every morning with a Democratic legislature who's trying to beat my head in and fight me because I'm trying to bring conservative change to a state that needed it desperately.
I'll tell you why people are supporting outsiders. It's because you know what happens if someone's been in a system their whole life. They don't know how broken the system is. A fish swims in water, it doesn't know it's water. It's not that politicians are bad people. It's that they've been in that system forever.
All right, so was anybody buying that? I'm just an eye surgeon from Kentucky, but you're also a U.S. Senator. In the back, go ahead. Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, they all have had to have some sort of experience to be able to get where they are right now. I grew up in New York and New Jersey, so Chris Christie is someone very familiar with us. I would never believe that he's someone who's an outsider as well. And I don't think that's going to capture me, that story. What's going to capture me is just their qualifications as well. Carly Fiorina, I never heard of, but when she spoke about the Iran deal and repairing relationships with Benjamin Netanyahu, that's what struck out to me.
Like
that was something very close and personal to me.
Raise your hand if you are one of the 2/3 of Republican voters who believes it is important to find somebody on the outside of Washington who doesn't really want establishment. You sir, in the back, Emery. Why don't you want somebody from government?
People are tired right now of what's going on in Washington, D.C. We've been betrayed in the last two elections. The last two elections, they promised to do something and they didn't carry it through.
What specifically?
Well, first of all, they didn't repeal Obamacare.
But they tried.
Yeah, they act like they tried, but deep down inside, we know that the games were played.
So what do you think? I mean, so who do you like? You like Fiorina, Trump,
well, I haven't
Carson,
really made up my whole mind yet, but I really liked the way she handled herself last night on the show, on the debate, because she gave very substantive answers, and they sound like they were coming truly from her heart, and also from a knowledge that she knew exactly what she was talking about.
What about Trump, though? Because Trump, I mean, he's as outside as you can get, sort of. I mean, he says, look, I don't play by their rules. I'm going to do it my way. I win. It's what I do. You're going to get sick of winning when I actually, take over. Go ahead, Yev.
I think we're obsessing a little bit too much about whether someone's an outsider or not. Ultimately, good policy is good policy. It can come from an outsider, from an insider. Trump so far hasn't elucidated any serious policy proposals. He's claiming that he's going to have this tax overhaul coming out in the next 2 weeks. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I can see good policy coming from Jeb, coming from Trump, Fiorina, any of them. It's really about the underlying policies.
But aren't people worried? People are worried that once they get to Washington, they're going to bend to Washington instead of making Washington bend to them. Yes, go ahead, Donna.
There's a concern with Trump. He had spoken last night about obviously Russia being in Syria, and he is going to handle that.
He's going to talk to Putin.
He's going to talk to Putin. He's going to handle Assad. How? He doesn't even have a foreign policy team. So these outsiders are such a concern. And what's happening, I'm afraid, is that these qualified politicians, senators, governors, are being completely dismissed. Nobody's paying much attention to them. They're seasoned. And there are some good candidates like Rubio and Cruz that are really being disregarded because of people like Trump. He can't outline his plan.
Well, go ahead, Gary.
See, Donald Trump was very successful when he ran the Trump organization. He was able to do whatever he wanted. If he becomes president, he has to deal with a Congress. So it's not so easy as Trump just walking in and say, okay, I'm going to bomb Syria. It doesn't work like that. I was a supporter of Trump, and after last night, I was very disappointed in his performance, his lack of dignity of the office of president even. And I think he's going to have to really rethink his whole policy. He just can't go in there like a bull in a china shop.
John in the front, go ahead.
Well, I think the being an outsider is sort of the flavor of the month. I think we're going to see that change. I think that Donald Trump has done a lot to bring that flavor of the month to the fore. I look back, and maybe I'm older than some of the other folks in the room, but in my lifetime, I don't think I've seen a president who has been a true outsider. And I think you're going to see the candidates with more experience come to the front, whether it's a Jeb Bush or a Marco Rubio. And I will tell you, I was very impressed with Marco Rubio last night.
Why?
I think he had a tremendous command of foreign policy.
Some people think he's too young. Yes, go ahead.
I want to challenge the idea that we haven't had an outsider before. Our president that sits in the office right now was an outsider. Very few people had heard of him. He'd been in the Senate for only a few months before he decided he was ready to be president. And the problems and difficulties that America experiences right now, I think largely come because he really wasn't prepared for the job. So when I watched the debate, what I was interested in seeing is what specifically are your policies. Give me your website so I can go and look on it. You know, Fiorina's done this, Walker's done this with an actual bill that he's going to introduce on the first day and send up to Capitol Hill for the repeal. I haven't seen this from Donald Trump. I want to see this, but bombastic, I don't have a problem with it. Shaking things up, I have no problem with it. But I don't want someone who doesn't know what they're doing, hasn't had any experience proving that they know what they're doing, and then let's just find out what's going to happen.
All right, stand by, hold that thought. Because while a lot of folks complain that last night's debate question seems way too focused on Donald Trump, there was some heat for Hillary Clinton as well. And when we come back, we're going to speak about who looked most ready to take on Senator Clinton.
Here's the problem. We're fighting with each other up here. We agree. Let's ask Hillary Clinton. We shouldn't be fighting with each other. She's the real opponent. She's the real problem.
The only thing you're going to get by calling him Whitey is just smack.
You couldn't stop me if you tried, because the devil is...
Many of last night's debate questions were all about Donald Trump. But the candidates still managed at times to turn some answers to Hillary Clinton, who will actually be their opponent should they become the nominee. She got hit, maybe, depends on if she wins. She got hit on issues ranging from her private email server to Benghazi to her relationship with other candidates. But one of the questions GOP voters need to answer in the coming months is which of the GOP candidates is best positioned to go against somebody like Clinton if she wins in the general election.
This administration, with President Obama and Hillary Clinton, has created insecurity, the likes of which we never would have imagined.
I can't wait to stand on that debate stage with Hillary Clinton and to make abundantly clear, if you vote for Hillary, you are voting for the Ayatollah Khamenei to possess a nuclear weapon.
She believes in the systematic murder of children in the womb to preserve their body parts, Dana, in a way that maximizes their value for sale for profit. It is disgusting, and the American people need to hear it. We shouldn't be fighting with each other. She's the real opponent. She's the real problem.
Hillary Clinton talks about the minimum wage. That's her answer to grow the economy.
If you want to stump a Democrat, ask them to name an accomplishment of Mrs. Clinton.
I think it's time to put a former federal prosecutor on the same stage with Hillary Clinton, and I will prosecute her during those debates on that stage for the record that we're talking about here.
All right, so who did you think, I mean, just shout it out, who do you think is the best Republican to go up against Hillary? Fiorina. The women say Fiorina. You say Fiorina as well?
Rubio.
Rubio?
Rubio.
All right, so Rubio is Hispanic, right? So he's got the advantage of diversity. But how important do you think that is? I mean, do you think the Republican Party is hampering itself if it chooses, a white male to go up against a female should she become the nominee?
Not
at all.
I'm bothered by that kind of a question because it plays into the identity politics that this administration has brought forward. Hillary ought to be able to tell us what her accomplishments are and not just, I'll be the first woman. I want the most talented, the most capable, the most energetic person possible. If that's a man, if that's a woman, if that's black, whatever it might be.
Think about how Hillary's going to argue it at the debate. If she becomes the nominee, which obviously she's favored to, it's not impossible. She could fall apart. Sanders could get it somebody else. But if she becomes the nominee, she's already said, for example, I would love to debate Donald Trump. She's going to take, the whole reason I asked Donald Trump the question I asked him about women in that first debate is because, as I said in the question, she is likely to be the nominee. She's going to raise these issues about the way he has spoken about women. So who is the most effective person to take her on?
I think she's demonstrated that so far on the campaign trail. Time and time again, she has not been going after GOP candidates. She's been going after Clinton.
But what about Trump? Because one of the things people love about him is he is take no prisoners. I mean, he will not back down. He won't be pushed around by Hillary Clinton or anybody else for that matter.
But all Trump has said so far in the field about Hillary Clinton is she was the worst Secretary of State ever.
Which is true.
He doesn't.
But they all say that. They all say that.
He doesn't have the examples to back that up.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's no content behind what he's saying, and so he's up there entertaining like he's on The Apprentice again. There's no content where you've got Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, Carly all offering content.
How about Bush, Jeb Bush, and the family name? An asset or not?
I
very
think
disappointing.
You thought Jeb Bush was disappointing?
Very disappointing. He looked very weak last night, especially when he was looking at Trump face to face. He looked like he was scared.
Let me ask you about this moment that just broke tonight. Donald Trump was holding a town hall meeting in New Hampshire, I believe, and he was asked the following question about Muslims and Barack Obama. Watch.
From White Plains, amen, okay? We have a problem in this country. It's called Muslims. We know our current president is one. Right. You know he's not even an American.
We need this
birth
question.
certificate, man. But anyway, we have training camps growing where they want to kill us.
Mm-hmm.
That's my question. When can we get rid of
We're
it?
going to be looking at a lot of different things. And, a lot of people are saying that, and a lot of people are saying that bad things are happening out there. We're going to be looking at that and plenty of other things.
Now, already, Trump is getting hit for answering that with, we're going to be looking at a lot of different things, as opposed to taking on the premise of the question. And just before I get your answer, I refer you back to this moment with John McCain in 2008 when he was put in a similar position. Watch.
I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No.
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you.
She had said he's an Arab, and he said he's not. Your thoughts on the two men in the back?
I think that actually shows a fundamental difference right there, to show that Trump is not prepared to handle the tough questions like that, especially questions that are quote-unquote politically incorrect like that. McCain handled it very well.
In his defense, I'm sure he was caught off guard. He said that, this has to be the first question.
He was very caught off guard, but McCain handled it well with poise and was very cool, calm, and collective about it, and really bounced back there. What Trump could have done, if as a real politician, he could have gone and pointed out to the Iran deal and the problem of Islamic terrorism. Yes, but Barack Obama...
But do you think he had a duty to stand up and say no? No about Barack Obama.
I think even if he was caught off guard, I'm surely Senator McCain was caught off guard as well. But you could see so much more about his character, that he's willing to defend his opponent as still being a good person. He just simply has disagreements with him, whereas Donald Trump really didn't do anything. He just looked totally lost in the sauce, had no clue what to do.
I think that's the fact that we're looking back at 2008 as opposed to current day, and there is a lot of changes and a lot of things that have been exposed about Obama, and his past history and Reverend Wright and all these other things. When McCain was,
well, he's not a Muslim.
Well, we don't.
No, he's not. Well, no, we do know.
We do know
Well, okay, but all of these ties didn't come about until later on, I would say, until after 2008.
Go ahead.
We've seen some surveys that come out, and people were being lambasted because Republicans, a large number of them, said that he wasn't Christian. And there were newspaper stories that said 54% of Republican voters didn't think he was Christian. Here's the question I wanted to ask. Why did 25% of Democrats think that he wasn't a Christian? And then I started looking it up online, and there are large numbers of Americans who have problems with both the philosophical and religious background of our president. That's not on the American people. That's the president's job to engage them in a way. So
the president has said repeatedly that he is a Christian, that he is not a Muslim. And this was made a campaign issue back in 2008, and it was put to bed even by John McCain, saying no. Now it resurrects itself in a question that was objectively ugly. I don't know whether the questioner was real or a plant or what he was, but the question itself, do you disagree? Was the question not ugly?
I think the question was ugly, but I don't think it's necessarily the responsibility of any particular candidate to own what Americans say.
Well, the response was we're looking into it.
In America, you get to call out the President of the United States.
The basic problem here is that Trump has shown that he can't represent all Americans. There are Muslim Americans, there are Hispanic Americans, and the president has to be able to connect with all of them, not just the Republican base.
Thank you very much. Up next, the candidates spar over the actions of George W. Bush as foreign policy takes center stage.
News. It's the Kelly File with Megyn Kelly.
Well, foreign policy took center stage at last night's debate. In between taking jabs at each other, several of the candidates seized the opportunity to highlight their foreign policy credentials for the American people. Watch.
I was named U.S. Attorney by President Bush on September 10th, 2001. And that next day, my wife, Mary Pat, did what she did every day. She traveled through the World Trade Center and went to her office 2 blocks from the World Trade Center. And after those planes hit for 5.5 hours, after that, I couldn't reach her, didn't know whether she was dead or alive, and we had 3 children at the time, 8, 5, and 1. And I had to confront what so many thousands of others in my region had to confront. The idea that I might become a single parent, the idea that my life and my children's life might be changed forever. And I support what President Bush did at that time, going into Afghanistan, hunting Al-Qaeda and its leaders, getting its sanctuary out of place, and making it as difficult around the world for them to move people and money.
When the issue occurred in 2003, I suggested to President Bush that he not go to war. Okay, so I just want that on the record.
Every time we've toppled a secular dictator, we've gotten chaos, the rise of radical Islam, and we're more at risk.
Once again, we're joined by our panel. So let's talk about that, because foreign policy took center stage. Rubio had some big moments as well. Dr. Carson, was anybody surprised to learn that he did not support the war in Afghanistan? Yes?
I was very surprised, and I think it's going to be very harmful for him. We lost 3,000 people that day, and the country that hoarded those people that planned this, they did not hand them over, and they were asking for us to do what was necessary. You know, the one foreign policy achievement that I supported of Barack Obama was sending that SEAL team in there to get Osama bin Laden. That's how you respond to this kind of behavior.
How many people here like Dr. Carson? Okay, and by the way, none of you is committed. We intentionally selected you because you are uncommitted Republican voters, right? You, for now, at least you have open minds about who you might vote for. And is there anybody, I mean, I'll ask you what was asked to the Republican candidates. Would you support the ultimate nominee, whoever it is, whoever the Republican is who runs as a Republican?
Yes.
Okay, so you're all planning on voting Republican no matter which of these guys or gals gets the nomination. Okay, so who did you think won when it came to the foreign policy section?
Marco Rubio.
Why?
He has a better understanding of a lot of these foreign policy topics that he's talking about instead of just.
But he's an insider.
He is an insider, but that's every time there's a debate or any kind of gathering, these guys, they try to one up each other of who has the most humble upbringings or who has the most adversity or.
Britt Hume calls it destitution derby.
Yes. My dad was a coal miner. Well, his dad was a harder coal miner, and so. But I mean, getting back to the foreign policy, I mean. he hit it really well when he said that our military is not designed for pinprick actions, and we can't leave power vacuums. So when we do go somewhere, we need to be very strong, but we need to be very smart.
Let me ask you
about
this:
what we do.
other than Rand Paul, who obviously made his libertarian position very clear, do you see a clear distinction between these candidates when it comes to foreign policy?
Not at this point, no.
You don't.
No, I don't. And I think what we're doing right now is this is still in the beginning stages of these debates. Wait until we get into the later stages when there's going to be a necessity for each candidate to become much more specific on policies of all kinds, but foreign policy in particular.
Any doubt that each one of them would do better than Hillary Clinton to you as Republican voters?
No, no doubt
There is a differential
whatsoever.
on the Iran deal. So, for example, Kasich would accept the Iran deal per what he said.
Is that a problem for you?
It's a problem yes.
For me. It is a problem for you.
It is a problem. Absolutely.
You want the person to get rid of the, I mean, on day one it's gone.
It's a terrible deal. And there's no way to get it back.
Go ahead, sir.
I think that we need to look at a lot of the intricacies associated with the Iran deal. There's a lot of things we just don't know. I hear things left and right. However, what the underbelly of this deal is what my concern is. I hear candidates saying that they want to rip up the deal on day one. Let's look at the deal. Before we make any snap judgments.
Well, you just said there's a lot of things. Rip up the deal. Gary, quickly. In the back, sir.
Itself is calls for death to America. So what are you looking at to talk to another leader who wants to wish death to us?
How about Ted Cruz? You like his position on that? He was very strong on that last night.
Yeah.
Like Ted Cruz.
Look at the side deals that are being made.
Look at the side deals.
Talking about and figure out what those are, and why won't the Obama administration turn those deals over to Congress and let them actually debate on those issues and find out what's in that deal?
This is going to keep being a big issue. All right, the next section has got to be one of the most interesting for our panel here. There was a lot of drama at the big debate, but there were some funny moments too. Did you catch this one between Ben Carson and Donald Trump? The moments that made us cringe and laugh. Next.
We have some remarkable people, and in fact, not only are we the A-team, we even have our own Mr. T, who doesn't mind saying about others, "You're a fool."
Bring us your aching and sleep deprived.
But it had its funny moments too. From water bottle props to one candidate actually apologizing to his mother for smoking pot, there was no shortage of laughs. Watch.
Ever ready. It's very high energy, Donald.
Mr. Trump?
Humble.
That's a good one. I think we are, in fact, the A-team. We have some remarkable people, and in fact, not only are we the A-team, we even have our own Mr. T, who doesn't mind saying about others, "You're a fool."
And I'm also aware that California has a drought, and so that's why I made sure I brought my own water.
Mr. Donald Trump would be dangerous as president. He said he wouldn't want, quote, such a hothead with his finger on the nuclear codes. You as well have raised concerns about Mr. Trump's temperament.
So 40 years ago, I smoked marijuana, and I admit it. I'm sure that other people might have done it and may not want to say it in front of 25 million people. My mom's not happy that I just did.
So okay, back now to our panel. Let me ask you in the back. We haven't heard from you, Bill. What did you think of the Rubio water moment? Funny, or did it fall flat?
No, I thought it was hysterical.
You like that
yeah,
one? Hysterical.
Yeah, totally.
A strong review.
Yeah.
The one thing you got to give Donald Trump, he's funny. He makes you laugh out loud. Like the humble remark, that was good. It makes you bond with him. This is one of the criticisms of Fiorina, is that she wasn't, warm enough, in that she didn't smile at all. Trump smiles. He laughs at himself. It is somewhat endearing. Go ahead.
I'm the national chair for College Republicans, so my primary focus is how are these candidates going to perform in the general election when young voters are going to decide that presidential election. And something that young voters value more than anything is authenticity. So to see moments with the candidates, these unprompted jokes and unscripted moments really, I think, matters to the next generation, particularly when we're dealing with the alternative candidate, Hillary, who is very secretive and very evasive when it comes to her own scandals and emails.
She tries to laugh at herself, but there's a question about whether it's authentic. It doesn't work if it's not authentic. And that's what's that?
Her jokes are too corny.
Her jokes are too corny.
And her advisors, I think, recently just said that they are going to try more jokes on the campaign trail. It sounded very programmed and really robotic.
Trump is genuinely funny. In Fiorina's defense, if you're not funny and you try to be funny, that's bad too. That's bad. Go ahead.
there are sort of two important things. One is Trump is a natural television animal. He relishes being in front of the camera. There's really no way to sort of get around that.
Factor.
With Carly, especially last night, she was up there to prove herself. And so I think that's why you saw such a sort of steady sobriety. For those who've seen her off camera on the campaign trail, there's a warmness there that I think is going to come up later.
How about you guys audibly reacted when the Jeb Bush, Donald Trump hand smack? Was it a little too aggressively, hard? Was it like?
There's a little something behind it.
Was there something behind that? You thought he was sending him a message?
Absolutely.
You don't think that he was genuinely enjoying that?
I think he enjoyed doing it really hard.
I think what I noticed about Trump was if you took a look at him when the camera was on him, when he was not speaking, he had some of the most incredible facial expressions.
Yeah, we showed some of that.
and that's something I took.
Well, you're a Trump supporter. You like that or you didn't like that?
I'm undecided.
Oh, okay.
I'm undecided.
Somebody said last night that he went through all of the emoji faces during the debate. I just thought that was a perfect summation of exactly what
Did you feel sorry for some of these candidates? I realize they want George Washington's job, but 3 hours long standing at these lecterns. I mean, by the end, some of them were sort of bent over. They were sweating. It was hot. I felt bad, but I wanted to get them out of there, and I'm, a moderator.
It was definitely too long. It was too, even to watch, it was too long. But my favorite joke of the night was actually somebody who wasn't on stage. It was Lindsey Graham, who made the joke about we're going to drink when I get to the White House.
Yeah, we're going to drink a lot of beer. And by the way, speaking of the Lindsey Graham debate, the under debate, the happy hour debate as it's called, did anybody watch that? Yeah. You did. Did anybody stand out to you? Go ahead.
I thought Lindsey Graham did a great job. His foreign policy was spot on, and the other 3 candidates failed to reach the mark that Lindsey Graham hit.
I was disappointed in Bobby Jindal. I think he spent way too much of his time going after Trump, which is something that he's done in recent weeks, and it was a lost opportunity for him to really stand out and give some of his
policies. Do you think that was a strategy? Because a lot of the Republicans on stage went after Trump last night, which I understand they feel they need to take him down, but was it frustrating? Did you want to hear it more directed at Hillary than at another Republican on the stage? Go ahead.
I don't know if that was their strategy necessarily, but it certainly was the questioning that came from the moderators. It seemed like this is going to be a debate where all the other Republicans tell us what they think about Donald Trump. And that's not so helpful for the rest of us in making our decisions about these things.
All right, now, so you raised the issue of the moderators and the debate itself. We're going to get to that next with our panel right after this break with the most must-see moments from last night's showdown. When we return, our panel will share their thoughts on the moderators.
Earlier this year, the Treasury Department announced that a woman will appear on the $10 bill. What woman would you like to see on the $10 bill?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Fact. Every time you take Advil, you're taking the medicine doctors...
Well, while many of us have spent the day hashing out who were the winners and losers at the CNN debate, several media outlets are now saying that it's the show's moderators who underwhelmed last night. Womp womp.
At one point, you're just sitting there going, why, if you're just, working American, do you stay up to watch this? Because it's just going to be the Donald Trump show.
I think CNN, though, was trying to put on a TV show, and the star of that TV show was Donald Trump.
When you're doing a debate, there's a job you have to do. And it's not to obsess about Donald Trump. It's to get the candidates to give their views and debate their views on certain issues. You want to hear. You want to flush out issues. They, as in CNN, were obsessed with Donald Trump.
Well, in CNN's defense, so is the country. He's the front runner. And he got the most time in the Fox News debate as well because he was the front runner then as well. Did you have a problem with the amount of time allotted between the candidates? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, they're pitting one another against each other rather than talking about the issues.
Well, they wanted to get them to, quote, debate.
Right, let's debate the real issues. As a veteran and the veteran military family members across the country, we want to hear about your foreign policy. We want to hear where you stand on national defense, how you're taking care of veterans, not what you said about somebody in a magazine.
And when he would go with the moderators would call people out and say, hey, you made this derogatory comment about this candidate, and if they didn't give an answer, they would grill them and critique them until they got an answer. But when they asked about how they stand on a specific issue and they didn't give an answer, they wouldn't even care.
Interesting observation.
And they're this far
apart. Go ahead.
The moderators failed to marshal the pool of candidates. Each candidate had a set number. We understand that Donald Trump was the front runner. However, I wanted to hear from Mike Huckabee, and he had
It's like
very
herding
limited
cats in their defense. I mean, there's 11 people up on the stage. Go ahead.
They learned very quickly that, because I saw it. If you said Jake, he stopped and said yes and let you go. So they were running the debate at some point.
Did you miss the buzzer?
Yeah.
The buzzer. Why didn't CNN give Jake a buzzer? Then you don't have to keep saying thank you, Senator, thank you, Governor, thank you. It's just the buzzer. Hey, the buzzer says you have to stop talking. It's not me. My question was, where was Dana Bash and Hugh Hewitt? Where were they? Like, hello? Did you know that they were part of the debate?
Not even close.
Right now, you're still wondering who I'm talking about.
They were interns.
But to get to your first question, I think and look, to be fair to the group that's sitting here, a lot of us are probably more policy oriented than the average voter. But still, the debates are supposed to be substantive. And I think a lot of us would have been happier had there was a fair bit of foreign policy discussion, but there was almost no discussion about the economy.
Yeah,
there was almost no discussion about Obamacare. And I realize there's an enormous number of issues out there, and even with 3 hours, it's still hard to get to everything. But
and that's the last question. Was 3 hours too long?
Yes.
Yes, it was too long. I thought I wanted 3 hours, and they showed me last night I was wrong. We were right to only have 2. Great to see you all. We'll be right back.
We don't just certify our pre-owned vehicles.
Candidates and how you see them tonight. Go to facebook.com/The Kelly File. Follow me on Twitter @Megyn Kelly. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. This is The Kelly File. Oh, nice.
Tonight. First of all, Rand Paul shouldn't even be on this stage. He's number 11. He's got 1% in the polls.
Donald Trump traded jabs with his rivals at the second GOP debate.
I didn't want to. Excuse me. 1 second.
No.
I didn't want to.
Donald, you cannot take
more energy tonight. I like that.